Good afternoon, and welcome to K2's Road to Excellence, Part 7, and our partner Zoho. This is Alan Salmon, and I'm pleased that so many of you are with us today for our first spring webinar. Hello in Brampton, Ontario. The snow's gone, and I saw a few buds today, but it's certainly not very warm. So moving on, I'm pleased that Marilyn Benninger, my good friend, is backing me up today. And she's your go-to person for technical issues and for questions. And by the way, she's enduring a novel experience today. She acquired a stand-up desk yesterday, and she reported to me this morning that it's working well and her back pain is not as bad. And she'll have a full report for you when we do our next one in May. But moving on to the important things, which is your microphones are muted for obvious reasons. You're welcome to take notes, but be aware that Marilyn, within 10 days of this webinar, will be sending you a package that includes the recording of the webinar, my teaching notes, and they're extensive, and my teaching files, which are also extensive, plus the answers to all of your questions and your CPD certificate. So when it comes to questions, those get entered in the chat window. And after the webinar is over today, Marilyn will send both Tala and myself the questions. We'll send her back the answers, and those will be included in your package. When it comes to CPD certificates, if you're new to the mini webinars, 5 times today, Marilyn is going to stop us and put up a polling question. These are multiple choice. You don't have to get it right, but you have to be recorded as getting 4 of the 5 answered to get a CPD certificate for 1 verifiable hour. If you don't, it'll be 1 non-verifiable hour. And now on to my topic today, which is Excel tables. So before I comment on that, Marilyn, let's do the first poll, please.
Good morning or afternoon, folks, wherever you are. This is the first of 5 polls. If you use format as table, if you understand structured referencing, can you copy from right to left with a mouse? Do you know how to use text, number, and date filters? Or maybe none of the above, in which case you're in the right room for Alan's great teaching today. We keep our polls open until we see 90% participation, and we're just about there. So I'll be counting you down from 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. I'm going to be closing the poll and sharing the results with you, Alan.
That's about what I expected. I'm talking about in Excel this, and let me pull up my first file here. The technical definition of a table is a set of data in columns and rows, which this is. What I'm talking about is on the Home tab, Format as Table. And that enhancement came out in Excel 2007. And at that time, I was saying that was the neatest add-on or enhancement that Excel had made in a number of years, and I want to prove that to you during my short time with you. So I've clicked outside the data set, which is not a good way to go. If I click anywhere inside the data set, and by the way, let's look at how large the data set is. Yeah, 366 rows. Let's go back to the top, and anywhere in here, I just click. And then I go Format as Table. And the screen's going to open up with a set of styles. So what am I in the mood for today? Blue. Now notice up here now, Format as Table, where is the data for your table? A1 to H366. And that's the reason why I think you should select a cell inside the table before you do this, because Microsoft will automatically know the table boundaries. If you're outside when you do this, you can do it, but you'll then have to define the table. And by the way, the one no-no with format as table is there shouldn't be any blank rows or blank columns inside your table frame. All right, click on OK. Oh, that's kind of cool. And for some people, this is all they do. They use format as table to get a great style. But that's missing a huge amount of things. So we're going to go on now and do some things with this table. So what are we going to do? Well, I'm going to go over here and put in average. Now watch what happens to column I when I do that. Do you notice that it formatted that column I? And if we go down to the bottom, now, do you notice this backwards L here? That defines the parameters or the bottom right-hand corner of the table. And if I go back to here and go down, you'll notice that. Let's do this quickly. It's here. So automatically what it's done is it's expanded it. Well, let's do an average. So I'm going to click on the auto sum, but I'm not going to double click on it. I'm going to click on the down triangle and I'm going to click on average. It automatically knew that, but now watch the magic. What it did was, first of all, calculate the average, and we'll come back to this stuff up here in a bit, and then automatically fill all the cells below. So let's move on to this. Now I've clicked outside the table because I want to show you something, and I want you to focus up here when I click inside the table. Do you notice now that we've got table tools here? When I click on that, it's going to open up a brand new tab called the Table tab. And there we go. Now it's broken into sections. So let's focus on the style section. And there's all my options. And notice as I hover, I see what it's going to look like. So these are what we call light ones. These get a little heavier. And then if we go down here, we get to the real dark ones, which I personally don't like. So this is a matter of what you like. And for me, I like this one. And you're going to say, well, Alan, why do you like this one? And here's the one joke that I'll tell in a mini webinar. I like it because of the color. It's salmon colored, groans across the country. So easily to change, as I said, and we'll leave it at that. And then we'll go over here under the table style options. And up here, click on filter. And you notice the down triangles across here go. And I'm picking on my wife because when I build spreadsheets for her as tables, she doesn't do any filtering. So I turn it off so it doesn't distract her. But in my case, I will always have it on. And then I've never used this. Notice the header row check mark. And why you would want to do that, I don't know. There must be a reason for Microsoft to do it, so we'll leave it on. And then the rows are banded. You see this is a little bit darker than this one. If I turn that off, I get that. Well, that doesn't differentiate it, but I can differentiate it in different ways. So for example, I can band the first column, I can band the last column, and I can band every other column. My personal choice is to band the rows and band the columns. And as I stress that that is strictly mine. I don't have time to deal today to deal in here. I will come back to removed duplicates. But over here, notice the table name. And the first table I create in the workbook is called Table 1, Table 2, and so on. Personally, I like to change it. So I'm going to change it to sales. And you'll see why in a minute. So that takes care of the table tab up here, highly useful. Let's go on now to this important concept. And that is this. This is a very simple spreadsheet done so that you'll catch the significance of it. Because if I go to this tab, notice down here that I have some data. Well, I'm going to copy that and I'm going to come back to here and notice the boundary. Watch what happens. It's expanded. The same thing will happen here with my chart. So feast your eyes on the chart while I do a Control V. Now, I'm going to digress for about 30 seconds here and focus on those of you who are using pivot tables. Your data, underlying data in a pivot table tends to change. So if you add rows to the underlying data and then go back to the pivot table, it won't update when you click on right mouse click and say update. What you've got to do is change the boundaries from here to here. From my perspective, I will never create a pivot table until I turn the underlying data into format as table. Because if I do that and then add underlying data, all I've got to do then is go back to the pivot table, right mouse click, and click on refresh. A huge time saver. Then we're going to deal with a mouthful. And that mouthful is called structured referencing. Now, I forgot to do one thing when I was in this file, and that was I selected these that I like, but I didn't click on the total row. So I'm going to do that. And as soon as I do that, it automatically inserted row 2612. Well, when this first came out way back in 2006 for me, I complained bitterly out loud that Microsoft didn't get it because they only did the total for the top right-hand thing. And then about a few months later, I learned to do this. And that is select the cell, go down to that bottom right-hand corner and get the plus sign and do that. And that's copying from right to left, which is why I asked that question. And there we go. And if I don't want a total row there for some reason, I turn it off. So let's move on to the concept of structured referencing, which is a mouthful. So I'm going to delete column J. And actually, no, I'm not going to delete it. There we go. EOW stands for end of week. And we got a fair number of rows here, 2617. And if I put the total down here, I'm going to spend a lot of time going down to the bottom to find out what the total is. So I'd love to ask the question, and I couldn't do it because I want the other 4 answers I needed. The question I would ask is, how many of you from time to time, like Alan, put your totals at the top, like here? And I suspect that many of you do, because it makes it highly visible and easy to see. So I'm going to put the total here, and I could use the auto sum button, but I'm not. I'm going to, so you see what I'm doing. I'm going to type in equals sum, bracket, and then I'm going to put the name of the table, which is sales. Then I'm going to use a weird symbol, which is the left square bracket. Now notice the pop-up window here, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Those are range names and apply to that total. And I'm going to type in end of week totals, close the square bracket, close the round bracket, and there we go. Now you would think that the formula there, and I'm not showing it to you for a minute, would be equal sum J8 to J whatever, but it isn't. And at first blush, this looks weird. So we come up here and we're saying sum sales in the end of week totals. That's called structured referencing. And I could do an hour and a half on structured referencing, but I won't. I'm going to show you 2 more things here. So I want the mean. Instead of typing the formula in, I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to select that and go up here. And instead of sum, I'm going to say equal average. Done. Now, I'm going to show you a second structured referencing formula. It's doing the same thing, but instead of doing a total, I'm going to do a subtotal. So when you look up here, equal subtotal 9 sales, the table, end of week totals, I get the same answer. And why the 9? I've covered this before, but I'll repeat it again. That's telling Excel that I want to do a sum. If I put 109 in here, the answer is going to be the same. But the difference is this. If this says 9, then it's going to sum all of the rows in the end of week totals, whether they're visible or not. So it'll include the hidden rows. When I put in 109, it's just going to sum the visible cells. So there's a clue which I use with large tables, and that is putting the totals at the top. Moving on, we're going to go here. And we're going to look at the type of filtering that we can do, starting with the name. Now, if I click on it, it lists the unique names that are in that column of that table. And I don't have to have a table to do that. I could put the filters up here and do it there. And of course, if I unselect them all and do this, I'll get that. However, there's far more power in filtering a table than just that. So notice text filters. We'll look over at the right. Equals, does not equal, begins with, ends with, contains, does not contain. So I'm going to go to begins with. Oh, sorry. How about I clear the filter? So I'm going to go to text filters, begins with, how about capital C? And OK. Now I've got just the C's. So real power when it comes to text. What about numbers? Well, let's clear this. And go here. And again, no, now we've got number filters, and look at the options here. Equals, does not equal, greater than, and so on. And the one that I love to show is the top 10. So we'll go here and open up the window. And I could do top, or I could do bottom. I want to do the top. And I can vary this, and so on. And did I get them? I think I did. Yep, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Let's look at date filters. And by the way, I'm going to go back here and come to the number filter and go down here and show you something that I missed. And that is, I don't want to do items. If I don't want to do items, I could do %, but I'm not going to do that for now. And now on to the last table tip that I want to share with you today, and that's something that's a real pain. In tables, we often find duplicate records, and I get that a lot when I do a dump from our CRM program into Excel. There's a couple of ways of dealing with those duplicates. The first is to go inside the table and go to Data, Remove Duplicates. And that pulls up this window here. I'm going to unselect all. My data does have headers. And I want to check for duplicates on the number column here. And I click on one duplicate found and removed, 185 duplicate items. Now the problem with that is it removed one duplicate, but I have no idea what that duplicate was. So I very rarely use this. Let's look at a different approach. A further problem of using data remove duplicates is you can't undo what you've done, which is why I had to exit the file without saving it and calling it up again. So here's the way I do it. I'm going to select all the cells in this column of the table, like that. We'll go up here so you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to go to conditional formatting, highlight cell rules, duplicate values. And it says to me, any duplicates in this column, do you want to color them with dark red text? Absolutely. Okay. Now, if I go down here, I'm going to find some duplicates. There's the first one. There's the second one. But what I'll do here is this. I will then proceed to sort the column with a custom sort. I want to sort by number. And instead of cell values, I want to sort by cell color. And I want the duplicates at the top. And now notice what we've got. There they are. So I now have the facility to be able to say, yeah, that's a duplicate. I've either got the wrong number or I'll delete it. So there's a case of where I don't use the table remove duplicates. I use conditional formatting. I need my last poll.
Absolutely, Alan. And may I just say my favorite conditional formatting feature is the one you just showed. I think that makes me a geek. All right, folks, we're asking about pivot tables. And again, you get to choose all that apply for you. Do you have challenges when you use them? Are you using them on a regular basis? When you add your data, does it automatically update? Do you know what a pivot table cache is? Or maybe none of the above, in which case you're in the right place for Alan's learning. Lots of people quick off the mark on this question. We're already at 85%, so I'm going to count you down from 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. I'm closing the poll, and I'll share the results with you, Alan.
I'm impressed that 11% know what pivot table cache is. Well, as you know, if you've been with me for a while, that's the focus on 2 sessions that'll be coming up starting in June. So Marilyn, it's time to introduce a new sponsor, and that is Zoho. So let's bring Tala in.
Thank you so much, Alan and Marilyn.
I've just handed control over to you, Tala.
Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and show my screen. Can everyone see that?
We do now. You have the comm.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And thank you, everyone, for joining. Thank you, Alan, for allowing us to speak to all of the attendees. What I want to bring to you guys is just a really quick high-level view of a suite of applications that you may not be familiar with. I often say that Zoho is the biggest company that you've never heard of, and I'll tell you why in a quick slide. My name is Talha Bakar. I work on Zoho's finance partner program. So I basically only work with accountants and bookkeepers and financial consultants all day. And that's what I love doing. I work with them on helping them get their clients to expand their businesses or utilize Zoho's massive suite of apps. So most of you, I reckon, probably haven't heard of Zoho. And so let's actually get started with our first poll question. Marilyn, if you want to go ahead and launch that, I'll jump into the slide right afterwards.
Perfect. So folks, your screen is blue again. This will be the third of 5 polls today. What percentage of your clients would you say are using an online accounting program? And you'll see the percentages there from 0 to 25 all the way up to 75 to 100. There might be some on the call for today. It's not an applicable question, and that's just fine as well. Nice, easy question. We're already at 90%. So I'm going to count you down for closing the poll from 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. I'm sharing the results. Do you see those results, Tala?
Yep, perfect. All right.
Awesome.
Thank you so much. So with that, I think I'll give a quick view of Zoho's suite of applications. Of course, as I work with accountants, my perspective is a little bit more on the finance side, which I think you being in a course on Microsoft Excel shows that you guys are also more on the finance side as well. A quick overview of Zoho for those that haven't heard of us. So Zoho is not a new company. We've actually been in business for 23 years. We're founded in California, but we have offices in 10 countries around the world. We're currently, I think this might actually be out of date. We're actually closer to 8,000 employees as of today. We have customers in over 180 different countries. The biggest thing that Zoho is known for is all of the business applications that we have. So we focus on small to mid-sized business applications. So everything from marketing to sales to accounting, which is what I'll talk about today with our finance apps. We have over 40 different products. They're all built in-house. And the most interesting thing about Zoho that I think a lot of companies don't really talk about, and I think it really comes to the culture of our company, is that we are completely bootstrapped. We've never taken funding. Zoho is a private company. We've always just done our best to build great products, go out there, make money, and reinvest that money into making more products. And the biggest thing that Zoho customers usually find in the suite isn't just all the suite of the plethora of applications that we have, but the value of those applications. So you'll notice from a cost perspective, Zoho is a factor of 10 or more less than some of the other products that people are utilizing. And those people who are utilizing them, we have over 45 million users worldwide, and tens of thousands of those are in Canada. So Canada is an awesome market for us. I was actually just in Toronto and Montreal last week, two beautiful cities, and really enjoyed our time there. We had a Zoho event. So we're going to be continuing to expand our market in Canada, and I'll show you our finance applications and how they actually have a specific Canada side to them. So the first thing that I really want to show you is Zoho's finance suite overall. To give you an idea, now I'm going to focus primarily on Zoho Books in my discussion, but we're going to spend a little bit of time on the other products that we have. The years above are the years that Zoho released those applications. Now, of course, this looks like a ton of different things, but the main thing to remember is that Zoho Books is Zoho's central accounting application. It's the equivalent of what you'd expect from the other big name players out there. It's a full double entry accounting system, includes expense management, of course, all of your AR and AP, reporting, cash flow, all of that. But what we've also done is that we've built these other tools that you can utilize to expand a certain part of Zoho Books. So for example, if your business has recurring invoices as a part of it, and instead of using just the recurring invoice module in Zoho Books, you can also use Zoho Subscriptions, which has a ton of advanced features that are very specific for subscription management. The same goes for Zoho Expense, Inventory. Checkout is a product I won't have time to touch on today, but it's an online payment page. Actually, we may have a few minutes. It's an online payment page where you can put that on your website. You can accept donations. It's just a really easy way to accept payments. And then payroll. So we are currently launching payroll in the United States. So we're in my home state of California. We're also in Texas. We've expanded to India. And in the roadmap for Zoho Payroll in the next 2 years is Canada, the UK, and Australia. So very soon, we hope to have a Canadian payroll solution in-house. We currently have an integration that I'll talk about in just a moment. So the fundamental idea is that businesses need more than just a bunch of apps. And of course, I just showed you a bunch of apps, so you're probably wondering, what the heck is this guy talking about? What they really need, and what we feel from all of the analysis that we've done, is that these applications, they have to talk to each other. You can't just have 10 or 15 different products that all do some portion of what you need for your business. You really have information in, of course, your accounting system that needs to go to a sales application if you have it. If you have inventory, then you're managing all of those stocks, but that, of course, relates back to your accounting system and your sales system. So you really need to be able to connect those products. And that's really where Zoho comes in. Now, just looking at the finance suite, Zoho Books, I mentioned earlier, is that central accounting system. So this is going to be the product that has, all of your invoicing is going through this, your online payments, connects to your bank account, generates all your reports. But you also have these tools that can connect into it that, as I mentioned, can expand certain functions. So for example, Zoho Books has expense management, of course, built into it. That means, you're recording your overhead expenses, all the typical stuff that you would expect. However, Zoho Expense has a travel and business expense reporting side. So for example, at Zoho, I'm responsible for, in our California office, we have about 50 employees. It's one of our smaller offices. But I took up the responsibility for ordering lunch for the office, and Zoho's kind enough to provide lunch every day. And so I use my Zoho Expense app, and I take a picture of receipts or when I travel, and it'll automatically scan the receipt. It'll enter in the name of the merchant, the date, and the amount. It'll create an expense report, and then I can submit that. And then if I were running my own business and I had employees submitting those expenses, then those expenses then get brought into your accounting system and logged there. So that's how the integration works. Although all of these tools can also be used on their own. Now, just a quick analysis of how Zoho's finance products work. The main thing that I want you to remember is that Zoho's finance apps all share the same database. So what that means is if I'm creating a sales order in my inventory system, that is immediately available in my accounting system. Or if an expense is logged, then that is immediately available in my accounting system. And that's because the same database doesn't require any type of syncing delay. So if you use two applications from two separate companies and you try to integrate them together, you usually have some sort of tool that needs to bring that information from one application to the other one. And sometimes it doesn't go back. It's only a one-way thing. And that there's also a delay in that case. So this isn't something that you'd run into with the finance applications at Zoho. Additionally, we have a huge focus on making it as simple and as intuitive as possible. So it's something that business owners should be able to quickly jump into and not feel intimidated by, but also has the reporting and customization that admins and accountants and bookkeepers all require. So that is really the focus. And I'll give you a quick glimpse of what Zoho Books looks like and some of the other functions inside of it. So let's talk about Zoho Books for a quick second. Now, I did mention Zoho Books is our flagship product in the accounting and finance suite that we have. Here's a quick screenshot of what the dashboard looks like. Almost every application from Zoho also has a mobile app that you can use on your iPhone or your Android phone. So it makes it really easy to generate statements, generate invoices, log an expense, take a picture of a receipt. You can do all that on the go from your mobile app. You can also use a tablet if you'd like to as well. Now, if we have a chance towards the end, I'll actually go into Zoho Books and poke around just for a minute or two to give you kind of the lay of the land. So within Zoho Books, I think the easiest way to think about it is that it's the nuts and bolts of everything you'll need on the finance side. Now, I did show you all those other products that have a finance component to it, but Zoho Books really does all of those at a basic level. So first, just off the bat, it's a full double entry accounting system. You can, of course, go in and make manual journal entries and also run journal reports, but all of the transactions that you log, right, getting an invoice marked as paid, creating an expense, all of those are recording a journal entry on the back end. For Canada, we do have GST and HST tax and provincial tax calculation, and I'll show you what that looks like. We also have automatic bank feeds with thousands of different institutions. So banks, credit unions, credit cards, you can actually sync those into your Zoho Books account. And what that allows you to do is you have a live feed of your actual transactions coming into Zoho Books. And then let's say I have an invoice that I send to a customer and they make a payment through a credit card integration that I have. Once I receive that deposit in my business checking account, I can match that deposit with that invoice right inside of my accounting system. And that way I know that that customer has paid that invoice. And then you can run a reconciliation to see if anything has fallen through the cracks, and of course to match all of your transactions with the closing balance for your period. So you have all of that functionality built right into Zoho Books. I mentioned the many different payment gateways. So if you are accepting payments via credit card, you can do that, PayPal, or let's say you have a customer that wants to do a bank-to-bank just wire transfer, or you want to have your customers do that, you can actually set that up as well. And you also have the ability to print checks or pay vendors. Now, one of the most interesting things and my favorite part of the finance suite is something called the client portal. So the client portal is a way to allow your customers to log into their own account and view any outstanding invoices they have, generate a statement for themselves. They can make payments there. They can even update their information. So let's say their billing address changes. They can log into their own portal. It's not branded by Zoho at all. It just has the logo for your company. And they can make that change. And then whenever they hit save, that information will automatically change in both the accounting system and all the other Zoho applications that you've integrated with Zoho Books. So it's a really cool way to give your customers kind of that extra level of knowledge and not have to call for every piece of information. And finally, we have inventory management inside Zoho Books. We also have Zoho Inventory, which I'll talk about, which has just a ton more features. But I just want you to know that Zoho Books has all of the tools that you need to run the finance side of your business. We also have recurring invoices. I mentioned that towards the beginning. And here's a link for our integration with SimplePay. So SimplePay in Canada has set up an integration with Zoho Books. So you can run payroll through SimplePay, and all of the journal entries related to each pay run are going to be brought into Zoho Books. And that's SimplePay if you'd like to check that out. Now, Zoho subscriptions, this is a really interesting product. I won't have the time that I would love to go into it. It's actually one of my favorites because you'll notice today that so many businesses have an opportunity to set up a recurring revenue stream. And, and how many, it's not a poll question, but how many of us out here have a subscription to some kind of entertainment service, whether it's Netflix or a music service? And even nowadays, I'm sure someone out there has a subscription to getting a razor every month or deodorant or whatever it is. Now, the interesting thing is that so many businesses have the ability to look at the services and products they offer and say, hey, can we build in some sort of recurring revenue stream? So I mentioned I work with accountants all day, and more and more of the partners that I work with are actually moving their firms to the subscription model, and they'll offer their clients a set number of consults and reports and help for a fixed fee, and they might have add-on services that they can offer. But it makes it really simple for their clients to say, yeah, let me sign up for a subscription. And that way, one of the biggest things, and you'll notice this, is here towards the bottom left, which is analytics. Subscriptions require you to look forward in time, right? An accounting system always is looking at stuff that's already happened. Subscriptions gives you the ability to look at recurring revenue, whether it's monthly or yearly, and you can actually create projections. So a couple of the things within subscriptions, of course, it manages recurring payments. All it does is it generates an invoice at that frequency that you've set up. One of the more interesting things about subscriptions is the top center, which is hosted pages. Really what this is, it's just a sign-up page that looks like a website that you can actually put inside of your existing website. So for example, if you had a client who went directly onto your website, they could actually enroll themselves and sign up for a subscription, enter their credit card number, and all of that would happen without anyone having to manually initiate anything. One of the most important things about having a subscription business is taking control of failed payments, being able to notify customers before their credit cards expire, or if they do have a failed payment, being able to then send them a notification and try again for a number of days. So all of this is built in to Zoho subscriptions. Now, before we move on ahead, I'd like to ask Marilyn to launch our second poll question. Just want to make sure everyone has that opportunity. And right after that, we'll continue with the rest of the finance suite.
Great, thanks for that time there, Talia. So folks, this is our fourth of 5 poll questions that will count today. Do you consult your clients about applications that can integrate with their accounting program? Sometimes you do. Yes, all the time. No, none of the time. Or maybe this isn't a question that's applicable for you today in our session. Nice, easy question. So we've got nearly 90% response already. Thanks for being so attentive. I'm going to count you down from 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. I'm going to close the poll, and I'm sharing the results with you.
Perfect. Thank you, Marilyn. All right. So I want to show you a couple more things that I think are going to be really relevant, because it seems like there are a lot of business owners out there who may be running their own businesses or working in an organization where they're helping to manage the finances, and this would be kind of your wheelhouse. So Zoho subscriptions, I think I've gone on about this. I could honestly go on for a lot longer, but I will not do that to you. Zoho Expense. This is a product that is interesting because it's centered on the idea of expense reports. And so when is the time that you're going to generate an expense report? It's primarily going to be when you have multiple employees, or you have a policy system or a hierarchy where you're going to be submitting expenses to a manager and so on. So Zoho Expense allows you to set all of that up. Now, one of the biggest things about Zoho Expense is the OCR, the optical character recognition. So whenever I travel, last week I mentioned I was in Canada, I take a picture of a receipt anywhere I go, and it automatically scans that info in, so I don't have to type it, and I have the ability to do all of this from my phone. And what I can do is I can add that to an expense report, and our policy is set up so that there is a manager above me who's going to initially receive all my expense reports. When she approves it, then it's going to go to the next person. And Zoho is pretty. We don't have a really complicated hierarchy, so there's like 2 people, and then it gets approved. And if they have any questions or concerns, they can actually go directly into that expense report inside of Zoho Expense and make a comment. So at Zoho, we send very little emails to each other internally because we have all these tools and the ability to actually ask the question exactly where it matters, so that I'm not scrambling to figure out, opening this up or that up based on an email. Now, one of the other important things about Zoho Expense is that the mobile application has a ton of features that are going to be relevant for travelers. So, for example, if you travel, at all for work, let's say that's driving, and you need to record the distance that you've traveled to record that as an expense, you can actually have a policy set up for your organization, and you can add mileage. And you'll notice here on that screenshot, there's a add mileage button right in the middle. So what I can do, and I've done this a number of times, is I can actually just enter in the address of where I'm going, and it'll give me a few different routes. I can choose the one that I'm going to take, or, which I think is a lot easier, I can just hit start, drive to wherever I need to go, hit stop, and then it'll record the distance that I've traveled and add that as an expense. And I can associate that to a client. If there's a project, you'll notice here on the bottom right, in the second screenshot, you can see I've selected a customer. If this customer has a project, I can also associate this expense to that project. And if I need to make this a billable expense, I can also do that too. So you have all of this functionality, all from your mobile phone, all related to expense management. It's really simple. And for approvers, even simpler, they can look at all of the reports that have been sent to them and actually go ahead and approve those on the fly. And then we finally have Zoho Inventory. And when I say finally, it's kind of in the big products in the finance suite that have a lot of functionality. So, of course, if you have inventory in your organization, there are a number of ways. No 2 inventory companies are the same, but there's a number of ways that this is managed. One of the biggest things about Zoho Inventory is that it is multi-warehouse capable. So if you have multiple locations where you're storing these goods, you can have them sent directly to that warehouse. You can transfer between warehouses. And then, of course, you can deliver to your customers from there. The most kind of critical thing about Zoho Inventory is that it does a lot more than just keep track of your stock levels. So the most useful part is that it actually has an entire kind of sales order management system. So this will integrate into your website. So let's say I have a website using Shopify, or we actually have an upcoming product from Zoho called Zoho Commerce, which is a website shopping cart. And let's say customers go online and they buy whatever products that is that I'm selling. And once they check out, what it'll do is it'll create a sales order automatically in Zoho Inventory. And Zoho Inventory will walk me through this entire process where first I'm creating a package, a physical package, where all the stuff is going to go inside of it, and a packing slip is generated. Then I have integrations with different shipping channels. So there's integrations with Canada Post and FedEx and UPS and just dozens of other carriers out there. And so I can actually print my shipping label directly from inventory, slap it on the box, and then I can track that until it gets delivered to the customer. So you have all these integrations. There's a ton more that Zoho Inventory does. Unfortunately, we just don't have the time in this session to go into all of it. But of course, I do have resources and other sessions that I've done that I can point you in that direction if that's something of interest to you. And then I did mention, if we have time, I'm going to talk about checkout for a quick second. I think this is a really interesting product for clients who are looking to figure out a way just to accept online payment, especially from their mobile phones or from their iPad. So the basic idea is that you can create a payment page to accept payment. So imagine you're at a trade show, or imagine you're out and about, and you need a client to enter in their information onto the device and go ahead and make a payment right there. That's what Zoho Checkout does. You can also take that payment page and you can just slap it on your website, because Zoho will give you all of the code to just throw it in there, and customers can actually check out securely through that payment page, wherever it is on your website. Now, one of the more interesting things about having that payment page is there's also an option for a customer to say, this is a recurring payment. So I've seen really simple companies like a music tutor use that. and they just have essentially a subscription where they are charging their clients on a monthly basis to have those music lessons. The other option is that you can actually accept donations for nonprofits, and so a customer can choose to enter in, or a donor in that case, enter in how much they would like to donate, and then check out through there. So very simple. A lot of churches are able to utilize that. It's just a very simple app. The most important part of it is that all of those payments get created as invoices in Zoho Books. Now, of course, when you have Zoho Books and you create invoices there, it kind of flips things a little bit. So someone from the company has to enter in the information for that customer, and then they're going to send the invoice, which they can pay. In this case, we're actually allowing the customer to enter their own information in and just go ahead and make a payment initially, and then create the invoice right afterward. So that really, I think, is an interesting tool from Zoho. It's called Zoho Checkout, and it basically has these 4 very simple steps to get a payment page going, including a live link. So if you want to share a payment link on your Facebook account or your company's LinkedIn account, you can actually do that directly there. Now, what I'd like to do is just give you a quick view for just 1 minute, because I have a few minutes left, on how all of these applications integrate. So we have a product at Zoho that we're probably most well known for, which is called Zoho CRM. For those that haven't used a CRM before, it stands for Customer Relationship Management. And essentially what a CRM system is, it's a sales system that tracks all of the interactions with your clients in one place. So for example, if a client is emailing anyone in my organization, if they're calling us, if we're using our live chat on our website, to create invoices, really anything, a CRM system is like this massive file cabinet that has all of that information organized inside of it. So it's typically something a sales team would use to generate quotes and send to customers. And it allows you to create tasks and do so much more. I mean, it's a really, really fantastic product. Now, the thing that I like to focus on is that you have all these tools like Zoho Books and Zoho Inventory that you can integrate into your CRM. And what that allows you to do is you can actually create a invoice or a quote from your sales system, or you have a person, if you're a larger company, you have a salesperson who's generating that. And then immediately that transaction will get created in the accounting system. So the accounting or finance administrator or the business manager or owner, they can view all of the accounting related documents instantly. So you have this direct integration between these two systems. It's really something that businesses are able to cut down on a lot of the manual data entry that is, such a time hog. And so these individuals within the organization that are responsible for a lot of that manual data entry, what they can do is instead focus on things that are more profitable for the company or more interesting to themselves. So this is something that I think is hugely relevant for businesses, especially in today's day and age. One thing that I haven't mentioned that I hope has been kind of underlain in this entire presentation is that all of Zoho's applications are available on the cloud. So they're always online. You don't have to worry about data storage or all of those specific things, because Zoho actually maintains all of our own data centers. We have an entire website devoted to Zoho's privacy policies and all of the standards that we follow and all the regulations that we follow. And I recommend that you check that out at zoho.com/privacy. With that, what I'd like to do is just give you a quick wrap up before our last poll question, and I turn it back over to Alan and Marilyn. The idea is that Zoho Finance is not just a lot more finance apps, because we already know there's a million apps out there. What it really is, it's a way to manage your businesses in an integrated environment where the data is flowing between the two systems. I add a customer in one place, I don't have to add them, in all of my other applications. I also highly, highly encourage you to visit us on Zoho.com. Zoho.com has a list of all of our products there. If I click on any of these, it'll give me a full breakdown. So if you're looking to manage your social media, if you need document signatures and email campaigns, all of that is available through Zoho. It's a really, really fabulous suite of products that goes very, very deep. I highly encourage you to check that out. And if you have any questions at all, please go ahead and put those into the question panel. When Marilyn sends those back over, I will be able to go through and answer them all, and then I hope everyone can have access to those answers. So with that, I think we have one more poll question, and we are right, I think, on the time. So we can go ahead and launch that, please.
You're exactly right. We do have one remaining poll question, and it is, what is your biggest goal for your business this year? You'll see your questions are gain new clients, expand services, learn new technologies, leave a comment if you have another choice, or maybe there's a place that's not applicable for you on this question today. When you receive your link to the recording and teaching materials in 10 days, you should be aware that we use Zoho. We're using campaigns and CRM, and we're learning more every day about how to be better users. So we can recommend it for you as well. So we're just about 90%, folks. If you could add your last few questions, answers, and I'm going to count you down from 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. I'm going to close the poll and share the results.
Thank you so much, Marilyn. And I just want to say very quickly, thank you all for your attention. Thank you so much for welcoming me to this webinar. I hope it was informative and another option out there. If you have any of these questions going forward, please feel free to reach out to me. And thank you so much.
Thanks, Tala. I'm going to switch over to you, Alan.
And I'm here. There we go.
There you go.
All right, so I'm going to do the wrap. Just continuing on a little bit with the tables. We have a paid webinar that goes into far more depth than I could do here, and you will get the link to that when Marilyn sends out the package. So I want to thank Tala, and I want to thank Marilyn. I assume she's still standing up. And I want to thank all of you, and we'll see you again in May. So that's a wrap.